Ladies and gentlemen, here we are today at the Sweet Remedy Cafe, episode 21 of the B Graders. I am Matt Tognini, as if you didn't know, but I better promote myself as best I can. I'm here by myself. The chair is empty. It will be filled later on by a special guest, but the chair is empty today because the big man, the biggest man in bike riding media, Matt Pointer, is not here. He's out doing other things. He's got other commitments, and I'm left here to carry the burden myself, and these shoulders are wide, but it is heavy. We have had a pretty quiet week in bike racing in Perth this week. We had vets at Dog Hill, won by Pat Hayburn in a break of 9. It was a pretty good race. By all accounts, break went early. Not many gaps between the break and the rest of them at the end, and Pat won a good race. It's been a while between drinks for Pat, so well done, Pat. We've got a special guest in the audience today. He's not our special interview guest. That's Shane. He's the llama. Go and see him on YouTube. He's YouTube royalty. He'll tell you how to set up a smart trainer. He'll tell you how to clean a set of handlebars. Anything technical you need, he's the man for it. He's second probably only to DC Rainmaker when it comes to reviewing stuff, so check him out. He'll help you out. Tour's on, obviously, and I'll get into talking about the tour in detail with our special guest, but, you know, we've had a pretty good week. Sagan out of the race, Cav out of the race. We'll talk about the pros and cons and what should have happened there later, but we have to admit there's been some dangerous sprints this year. A few guys have been chopping and changing, and I think it's just the fact that it's so even and there's no team that really can control it, that this is starting to happen. We had the Giro Rosa finish this week, won by Bowles Domans, Orica Scott's own Annemiek van Vleuten. She won 2 stages, including an insane time trial with the most stupid hill you've ever seen in it for a time trial, and she won that. She also took out the points jersey, so good results there for Orica. They'd been the nearly team of women's cycling this year, and the results seem to start to be coming now. Our own Jess Allen back on the bike yesterday. You'll see her racing again pretty soon, flying the flag for WA Cycling. And our other team, our favourite women's team other than Orica, Team WNT, had a little bit of bad luck during the week. Elise and Bex, they both fell off. Elise broke her arm, Bex broke her wrist, and that could be the season for them. Get well, ladies. Like to see you back racing again soon. That team's starting a race in Germany, a UCI 2.1 tour, the Lotto Thüringen race in Germany. Our own Becca Carter will be there. She'll be racing. She'll be flying the flag. She's off at about 6 o'clock in the prologue German time today. Now, other than that, Atta had a time trial. Stu Helm second, Jared Anderson first in pretty good times around in very cold conditions around Champion Lake. So well done to those guys. The next Peel race is at Dog Hill in 2 weeks' time, and the next Masters race is at Neerabup this weekend. So that's really the wrap on WA Cycling this week, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in a minute with our special guest. So we're back, and as promised, we have a special guest with us today. Welcome, Travis Meyer. Trav, looking very healthy, mate. Retirement is agreeing with you.
Is that code for fat, or...?
Well, I'd never call anyone fat given the man I normally sit next to, but look, you're getting there. I've seen you in the pub a few Fridays having a beer of an evening. It's probably something you're not as used to as maybe riding your bike.
No, I'm getting used to it, though.
Enjoying it?
I am, yeah. No, definitely enjoying just having that little bit of a break from the bike, and still get out when I can, but yeah, don't mind a beer or two these days. So
I saw you out with that local pro AJ the other day having a roll around. Did he take it easy on you?
Yeah, no, he's been really nice actually. He's been accommodating. So yeah, he knows that I have to ride a little bit slower these days, but AJ doesn't mind going a little bit slow every now and then.
He's sort of semi-retired himself now, isn't he? While his team's over in Belgium racing, he's here working on motor vehicles and selling stuff online.
Yep.
So, mate, first year away from the bike.
Yep.
You had a pretty good career. Rode a Vuelta a España. You rode Liège, rode some pretty big races over in Europe. What do you miss most about it, if anything?
I guess I miss the lifestyle a little bit. Obviously, being part of the team and being a professional athlete, that comes with a little bit of notoriety, and I did enjoy the racing and being a part of that setup. But obviously, it is a tough industry, and it is hard to maintain that sort of level of performance year in, year out. But yeah, no, it was fantastic while it lasted. I really enjoyed it and was happy that I got to do the experience.
And, you sort of were telling me earlier that beginning of last year you'd sort of made your mind up it'd be your last season. How did you go about transitioning out? Because you're one of the, a lot of pros end up finishing their pro career. They've earned a little bit of money, but not great money, and end up working in a bike shop, or not that there's anything wrong with working in a bike shop, but, doing something, but you've transitioned into something completely different.
Yeah, I guess it was when I made the decision, I really made it with no knowledge at all of what I was going to do. So, I left school after year 11 to be a full-time bike rider, and I knew that I'd be a professional at that age. It wasn't a question in my mind, but of course it leaves the door a little bit shut for you when that decision comes that you're going to retire. So had to do a lot of forward thinking and planning, and I really wanted to branch out to something that was completely different than what I've known my whole life. So it's been difficult, of course, as any transition phase is, but it's been a real challenge to move into a completely different area, and one that I've really been enjoying.
So you're a finance broker now, the finance detective. If you need money from a bank or a lender for any purpose, give Trav a call. He's pretty good. I've put some of my clients through to him. They're all very happy. So, Trav, let's go back to your career. You had some pretty big wins. You won an Australian road title. Might I add, your brother never won one of those, or hasn't
Still
yet.
hasn't.
And you beat him this year in the race.
Mate, yep, he can't quite crack that one. I mean, I always say to him that only the best win that race, and he hasn't quite got there yet, but I'm always here if he needs any advice on how to win it.
I know, I'm sure he'd be listening intently as well. I saw that race, watched it with great interest, and he rode a pretty good race, your brother, but you rode a smarter one because when it came to the pointy end, mind you, the young fella got away from BMC and won it pretty well, but you were there contesting it with the big dogs at the end.
Yeah, no, I was super happy with that, and it's probably one of my, I guess, proudest moments to finish off in that sort of style. I put a lot of heart and soul into that last race, and I really wanted to end my career on a high, and just to be there at the pointy end, and I made that attack on the last climb as well, and I did have a few goosebumps for a while, thinking that I might be up the win, but obviously got caught and managed to come to the line with the group of favourites and run sixth.
Had you have won it, would you kept going?
No, actually, funnily enough, I know it's such a small percentage at the time, but I had this conversation with Cam about it and whether I would continue, and I'd made my decision that I would stop, and I sort of looked at it as that would be a perfect way to end my career. I don't think it would have been the difference in me continuing. I think I still would have just been happy and content to finish with a national title and sort of move on to something different.
It's actually really refreshing to see someone who knew their mind, knew when it was over. It comes to everyone, some earlier than others, but and made positive steps to move forward with their life. And I suppose you're still surrounded by it a bit because you've got a lot of friends. Yeah. You've got your brother who's having an Indian summer of a career at the moment. Going over racing with the young guys from Australia, being on the track and being probably the best, if not in the top 3 endurance track riders in the world at the moment. Had it not been for him and Sammy Welsford, I don't think we would have won a world title in the pursuit this year. Yeah. Just magnificent rides. How often did you speak to Cam?
Yeah, I still speak to him quite a bit. He's in Europe at the moment. He actually had an unfortunate incident at the 6th day in Italy and had a crash. Mm-hmm. He's fine. He's just got a lot of skin taken off. But I still speak to him a lot. And watching the Worlds, what he did this year was incredible. We all know the calibre of rider he is and what he can do. But the way he dominated that points race, I was watching it just shaking my head thinking it's unbelievable. It's just a whole nother world. So, pretty impressive.
You gave the track up pretty early. You won a junior world title. When did you know that the track wasn't going to be for you?
I gave it a crack for a couple of years in the seniors. So straight out of juniors, I actually didn't ride the track too much because it was an Olympic year, so I focused on the road, but then went and focused on the track the following 2 years after that. And I was very good as a junior, of course, winning those world titles, but as a senior, when the pace in the team's pursuit started getting around that, 357, 356 mark, I just didn't quite have the capacity to...
It's somewhat quicker now too.
And I just shake my head at how fast they go now.
Well, they're doing 101 first kilometres from a standing start.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Absolutely incredible.
Would have won world titles in the kilo not that long ago.
Yeah, that's exactly. So, it's a whole new ball game, and I just didn't quite have that capacity to put out that sort of power to go fast enough with those boys. So, had to make a decision, and I had a pro road contract anyway with Garmin, so I was pretty content to sort of move across to the road full time.
Now, WA's having a pretty good run at producing top class bike riders, pros, junior under 23s. We've got the Matts, the Storers of this world, Jai Hindleys and so forth. Robbie Power going into Green Edge this year. What do you think? What do you think the secret of that success is?
I mean, the secret's always just hard work, and I think those guys. I've known Jai since he was about 7 years old, and he's always been a guy that just keeps pushing until he makes it. And I think, same with Rob Power, Matt Storer as well. And I don't think there's any exact secret to it. It's just the hard work they're putting in, and they're really paying off. And I think we'll see a lot more.
It's not the water out Midland Way where you come from.
Maybe I'm not sure. But they're doing exceptional, and I think we'll see a lot more guys going into the pro ranks over the next 5 to 10 years.
Now I have to ask you this, given the experience that you have, there's been the tour's on. It's it's the busiest month of the year for pro cycling or cycling in general. Been a couple of things that have happened recently. Yeah. Just want to get your opinion. Sagan, Cav, dangerous sprints. What's your view on that?
Cav's fault.
Cav's fault?
100%. That's the way I see it. I mean, if you look at the footage from the front on view, Cav tried to go through a gap that wasn't there. Sagan's elbow didn't even touch him. Cav's the type of sprinter. I mean, he's the best sprinter of his generation, of course, but he took a gap. He was desperate. He wanted that door to open, and Sagan just
shut it. Lacking a little bit of fitness.
Lacking a bit of fitness, so he needed the easier way through. He couldn't go the hard way.
I think he got what's coming to him, and I was a bit disappointed that Sagan was out. Now, the other one. Over 2 nights ago, Richie Port came down. Horrible descent. Looked terrible.
Yeah, it was...
Bit wet, and it's a bit sad that Richie's out. Well, it's very sad, particularly with the injuries he's got. That's going to be hard to come back from quickly. But young Italian, pretty good rider, Fabio Aru, seemed to attack the yellow jersey whilst the yellow jersey was having a mechanical. What's your views on that?
Well, I remember my exact wording when I was watching was, that's the biggest dog move I've ever seen in pro cycling. So
the biggest dog move you've ever seen? There's been some dog moves in pro cycling.
But that was so blatantly obvious that, I mean, he literally had to ride underneath Froome's arm as he's put his hand up.
You see, I encourage it. Because I don't like Froome. Froome's a Kenyan from the continent of Africa who rides for England. He abandoned his own country for better funding. I think he's a dog himself. So any dog should be attacked by another dog. I agree that racing has changed over the years. You've got to admit it.
Yeah, it has, for sure.
It's a more ruthless sort of sport now.
Yeah.
Port and Martin crashed on the descent. I know it's completely different, but you didn't see the yellow jersey waiting for them.
No, but I guess, I mean, from my opinion, the race was on. It was too late. So, but, I mean, if you waited for Martin and waited for Richie, you may as well wait for the gruppetto. So, I mean, the race is on. You can't stop from that point.
And I'll defer to your greater experience than mine, because you've ridden as a pro. I've barely ridden. Although Chris Glasby tells me often that he beat you in the Lowry when you were 15.
Yeah, he hasn't told me that.
No, because funnily enough, he likes to keep that
I'll let him have that one.
Yeah, you let him have that one.
Yeah.
You're probably riding the 90-inch gear at the time.
Probably. Yeah. No, well done, Chris.
Yeah, he's got to take everything he can get. No, I just found it really exciting. And, Aru did sit up once Martin and Porter schooled him.
Yeah,
He did the right thing. He could have kept going, and I would have encouraged him to keep going, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I've been called many things in my life, and many of them are not complimentary. Trav, it's been a real pleasure having you here today. Thanks for coming in. Once again, finance detective, Trav Meyer. We'll put the details up. Go and see him if you need finance. You'll see him out on the bike. He rides once or twice a week now. You may see him at some races. Go out and say hello to him. He's very approachable. I always thought he was the nasty brother when I first met him, but no, he's actually the nice one. He'll talk to you. He'll sign autographs. He'll have photos. I saw him at the Dams Challenge this year, helping a whole bunch of people out. He did a magnificent job. One of the great exports we've had from our sport here. Thanks very much, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Cheers.
And we'll see you next week on the B Graders. Remember our email address, matt1@iinet.net.au.